Alright, so when I started school at BYU in January of 2018, I went to new student orientation, which was a pretty big waste of time. But something I found very interesting happened. I thought before I went to BYU that of all the universities, of all the colleges out there, surely BYU, from the perspective of a member of the church, of a believer, surely BYU would not propagate lies to its students. Or so I thought before I came. So when I went through new student orientation, towards the end, they have roughly an hour presentation by the Title IX office. Nothing wrong with the Title IX office. It's got a good purpose, on paper anyway. And something I thought was funny about the Title IX presentation and the person who gave it is he trotted out the same sorry statistic that has been used all over America, all over, in claiming that there is a 1 in 5 chance that women will get raped or sexually assaulted during their stay at college. 1 in 5, that's 20%. I mean, honestly, I don't know how people can listen to that and not question it. Like, that is so absurdly high. But anyway, so he says this to the presenter's credit, he didn't obviously attribute that statistic to BYU, but he just said, oh, there is a number floating around that 1 in 5 women will be raped or sexually assaulted or sexually harassed or a combination of all three. Either way, 20% is way too high. So he says this, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So apparently BYU doesn't care about the truth. All right, no big deal. Come to fall semester of 2018, this year, I volunteered to be a group leader for new student orientation because of how much I enjoyed going through. I really was just interested in attending this briefing again, this presentation by the Title IX office, and it was the exact same. Nothing had changed. He still used the same statistic. 1 in 5 women. And I realize this has been debunked ever since it was put forward, but I'm going to do a short video on how you can figure this out for yourself. So if you go to just byu.edu, you can find a link to, but you can see the URL right here. So if you go to, instead of just going to the BYU's main site, just go to police.byu.edu and you can find this report right here, the Annual Security and Fire Safety Reports for 2018. If you scroll down, you're going to come to the crime statistics table. Now obviously 2018 isn't over yet, so those data are not in, but we get 15, 16, and 17. And if you look right here, it has rape, and it has fondling, incest, statutory rape. Further down here, this is hate crimes, arrest, disciplinary referrals. One of these, oh, right here. So, stalking and dating violence. Domestic violence could be non-sexual in nature, but let's just say, just so we can get some base numbers to work with, let's just add all of these numbers up, and we'll see what the real number is, at least for BYU. So, well, that's covering the thing. So we're going to add all of these numbers together. So 26 plus 2 plus 2. So even though the domestic violence doesn't have to be sexual, we're going to add it anyway, just because why not be on the safe side? And then we'll go back up here to rape and fondling. So plus 6 for fondling and plus 3 for rape. And obviously I'm just doing 2017 in case you were wondering. The off-campus numbers are significantly lower than the on-campus numbers. I don't know why that is, but clearly if you're coming to BYU, it would be in your best interest to live off campus. And I don't know very many people who are going to disagree with the idea that living off campus is much better. But anyway, so we've got these numbers, and we get 39. Now if we go to BYU's website, just the normal website, you click on About, and you scroll to the bottom, and you're going to get to the Y facts. Undergraduate students, total daytime students, and 50% of those are female. So we take 39, so remember 39. We're going to take 633 divided by 2 to find out how many women there are. And then we're going to, that's more than I want to memorize, but take 39 divided by that number. That's a far cry from 20%, from 1 in 5. So this is just over 0.02 of a percent. And there's a few things that, if you're a believer in this statistic, if you really think that 1 in 5 women face a serious threat of sexual violence, sexual assault, harassment, rape, fondling, any of that, if you think that, yeah, 1 in 5, yeah, that sounds good to me, obviously you're seeing this number and you're thinking, okay, yeah, maybe not at BYU, but as a national average, then it's true. 1 in 5, that holds true if you average across the nation. So I would just like to point something out. If this is 0.02% for this school, for BYU, you do realize that the next school, if we're going to average this out across the nation, we'll just go one school at a time. We're going to have to find the next school that we find, if we're going to hit 20%, would have to have a 40% rape rate, right? Or I guess just barely under 40%. So that when you add these two numbers together and you divide it by 2 to get the average, it hits 20%. Now, surely you're going to say, oh, well, of course there's more than 2 schools in the nation. And yeah, that's true. But my point is, what if we just do this one at a time? We'll just go through the list. So the next school I thought of happens to be UVU. It's literally just a few miles down the road from BYU, and their police website, they don't carry or track their statistics directly through their website. They report it, and it goes to, you can click on this link here, it goes to this website, the Campus Safety and Security. And I'll start over just to give you a tutorial to see how this works. So this is the website. You go to the name, pops right up. You go to continue, click on the campus, and this pulls up the statistics on the exact same crimes as what we found for BYU, just in its own website. And so in 2015 there was 1 rape, in 2016 there were 4 cases of fondling. And this is for on-campus. Non-campus looks like the trend, if there is any, at least between these two universities, is to live off campus. But even if we add these up, I mean, this one has even less. I don't see. I don't know where their stalking statistic is, but if you look at that, so 4, that's even less than what we found at BYU. So if we have these two schools, both with less than 1%, significantly less than 1% of their female student body has been raped or sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, that means that the next school we find, the third school that we find, in order to average out to 20%, to 1 in 5, the next school we find has to have a 60% rape rate. Are you starting to see how unbelievable this claim is? Right? Because when you add these 3 schools together and you divide by 3 to get the average, in order to hit 20%, the next school we find would have to have 60%. And you carry that forward. Let's say we type in the next school and it's less than 1% again. Well, the next school we find, the 4th school that we find, would have to have a 100% rape rate. 100% of their women need to be raped or sexually assaulted or harassed or anything else in order to divide that number by 4 and get, well, that'd be 25%. It'd have to be, what would it be? 80%, an 80% rape rate. Divide that by 4, you get 20. You see where I'm going with this? I think I don't have the patience or the care because I already know that the 1 in 5 statistic is false, but if you were just die hard about that number, go ahead and go to this website and just go to school after school and average it out yourself. I mean, the numbers are here. Nothing is being hidden. So honestly, for you to think that 1 in 5 women in college campuses across the U.S. are getting raped or sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, you are retarded. There's really no excuse for it. You are retarded. And I think legitimately the only thing that you could possibly say against this is, well, most rapes and most sex crimes go unreported. Okay, yeah, sure, I'm not going to disagree with you, but if we look back at the numbers, so what did we come up with for BYU, because it was higher? So there was 39. 39. So when you say most rapes go unreported, how much higher would that number have to be for you to consider it to be most? Would it be double? I mean, that seems reasonable to say only half of rapes get reported, of sexual assaults get reported. I mean, maybe even if it's a third or a fourth. I mean, let's just be extreme and we'll times this number by 10, right? Pretty easy. 390. Let's say a 10th of the rapes get reported, of the sexual assaults get reported, just a 10th. And let's go back. So you take 390, you divide that by the female population, and that's 2.3%. That's still a far way off from 1 in 5. And that's under the premise that only a 10th of rapes get reported, of sexual assaults get reported. I mean, that's completely ridiculous to think that, again, maybe there's a better defense for this position than I've heard, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the only one that could possibly make sense, is to say that, well, most cases of rape and sexual violence go unreported. But I mean, I don't know how to make this visual any better. If you take that number, you divide it by 2. In order to get to 20%, right? Do you realize what 20% is? That's over 3,300 women just at one school. There's really no way that you could think that this is a real number. And the reason why I think this is so important to me is because I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is his church. And by extension, BYU is owned and operated by the church. It is overseen, obviously we have a university president like most universities, but the entire university is overseen by the First Presidency. And for me, when I think about this, I think, okay, if the church is true and the leaders are called by God to be in those positions of leadership, and they've taken it upon themselves to fund and operate a university to show how much they care about education, which I think is a good thing, then why is there not, at least from my perspective, some kind of oversight in making sure that truth is the foundation for what is being taught at BYU? I think that was the most shocking thing about coming to BYU, is realizing that it's, for the most part, no different than any other major university. It's really not. When it comes to the academic side of the house, there's really no, at least from the few classes I've taken so far, there's really no oversight into what is being taught and whether or not, one, it lines up with the gospel, with the doctrine of the church, or oversight on if what is being taught is true. I mean, obviously there's oversight in the sense that there are department heads that overview the curriculum or decide what the curriculum is. But the problem is, they're getting it wrong. There's blatant falsehoods being taught at BYU. And to me, I think it's unacceptable, especially when, for stuff like this, I get that there's a lot of gray areas for a lot of things, but this it's so obviously false. Like, why is BYU allowing the Title IX office to lie to every single student who enrolls at BYU and attends? Like, there's no excuse. So I just wanted to, because I think the biggest problem is a lot of people don't think about these things. They're just presented with the number and they believe it. 1 in 5 women get raped at college campuses across America. Oh, okay, sure. I wanted to just make this video to show you how you can verify for yourself that that is a out-and-out lie. There's no basis in reality to it. And hopefully by doing that, I don't necessarily want to encourage cynicism, but a good healthy dose of skepticism can go a long way. So I'll leave that like that, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you disagree with my presentation, with the argument, or you think you have a very good defense for the number that 1 in 5 women experience some form of sexual violence at American universities, please leave a comment. I would love to, I would love to be proven wrong. I mean, don't know what else to say other than that. I would love to be proven wrong. So if you want to leave a comment about that, please do. And have a good night.